Hi, I'm Brad Thomas here with NBC Sports EDGE, and this is the College Football Live Q&A with Vaughn Dalzell and Eric Froton. And today we will answer all your questions and go over the best college football games of the day. Be sure to drop a like and ask your questions. So, Eric, let's set the scene here, man. Tell me one bet this week that you had a sweat or was an absolute massive cash.
Well, I guess kind of both, because it did hit. But last night in the Oregon State-Washington game, I was fading the Oregon State passing attack. So I took Gulbranson's under, I took Anthony Gould's under, and there was one particular play late in the third quarter where Anthony Gould was streaking down the middle of the field on a post pattern when he just toasted his one-on-one defender, and he's running bare naked. Like a streaker with nothing to worry, no care in the world. He was running down the middle of the field. And fortunately, Gulbranson, because the weather was such a factor last night, 20-mile-per-hour winds with up to 30-mile-per-hour gusts. A gust came right as Gulbranson unleashed the ball, and you just see it fluttering. There wasn't a tight spiral. The duck was quacking all the way down the field. And even though Gould was 10 yards away from anybody, the ball didn't land anywhere near him because the wind was so heavy and because it wasn't a tight spiral. So that is, a two-pronged sort of thing. We're going to have some weather issues that could be very beneficial to us on the props front that we'll be discussing today. And just be aware, when the wind is whipping 20 mile an hour plus. I've noticed that myself and my syndicate look at 24 as a real benchmark for us with passing stats. I'm going to be focusing on a few of those today.
I was on that Oregon State under, massive. I even talked about it on Battle of the Bets, like probably my biggest bet that I've made in college football season so far. Vaughn, what about you, man?
Man, there's a lot that I can say that come to my mind. I'm a little disappointed you guys caught that UTEP game last week how the refs stole a touchdown from us. That was, I thought we had our fifth best bet in a row, but the referee said, not so close. But, I've had some really insane NBA plays lately. We had a great 15-2 run before we got the bounce back here. But honestly, today is all about repeating the success of the Service Academy unders, Brad.
Yes.
That's what today is all about. Not Tennessee and Georgia, but Army and Air Force. So I'm excited to be here with you guys today. Let's get some winners, gentlemen.
Service Academy unders. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the most anticipated game of the season. Number 1 versus number 3, Tennessee at Georgia. Georgia is an 8.5-point favorite. The total set at 66.5. I will start to kick this one off because I think this line is absolutely wrong. I'm on Tennessee plus 8.5. And people are going to say, Brad, are you afraid of the public action? No. Do we remember when Alabama played Tennessee and it was an 89% of the public being on Tennessee? Now 82% of the public on Tennessee. I think when the line's wrong, a line is wrong. So let's start with, this is the number 1 offense in college football, number 2 in offensive efficiency here for Josh Heupel. They have Hendon Hooker, who's playing at an MVP caliber against a banged up Georgia defense. We know Georgia is great in the second level, but what's different about this attack for Tennessee than other passing attacks they're going to play all season is Tennessee is not going to just spread you out and just have their quarterback beat you. They're going to beat you with route design. They're going to beat you with route combinations, and then they're going to give you great bailout options. Another thing that I really like is, do we think Georgia is going to keep up in a shootout with Stetson Bennett throwing for 50% completion percentage? I think not. I think if this game becomes a shootout, I'm going to have the upper hand with the team with the better quarterback, the better wide receivers, and the better offensive coordinator or head coach, if you guys want to call him that. What do you guys think on this? Let's go with you, Eric. I think you have a play in this.
I do. I actually, like your father's favorite cologne, Stetson Bennett. Of course, yes. The smell of, I don't know what the smell of Stetson really is. But that being said, I like the over here. 288.5 is where it's at right now. I believe it's being hung on DraftKings. And reasoning being, we know what Tennessee is. I mean, they're going to score points. They're a potent offense.
My goodness.
And it'll be the best that obviously Georgia has faced all season. Now, the factor, what they're going to have to do is, we know what Tennessee doesn't do well as well. They do not defend against the pass well.
No.
They, in terms of their current, acumen, 20th against the rush in terms of team performance. They will do a good job against Kendall Milton, who I believe will play today. You will see Dejan Edwards. We'll definitely see Kenny McIntosh, out of the backfield catching passes. But I think that it's going to be hard, even behind a stout offensive line like the Dogs have, to consistently impose their will on Tennessee. And if Tennessee is able to score, which I think they can a little bit, we saw Cedric Tillman last year have 200 yards receiving against Georgia last year, and that was against the vaunted Georgia defense, where they've lost about 9 of those players, so including Nolan Smith, who will be out this for the rest of the season with a torn pec. So I like the game script, how I do think that Georgia is going to have to put their foot on the gas in a way that they haven't really had to this year, other than when they were emasculating Oregon in week 1 to let Dan Lanning know he made the wrong decision, not sticking around. But I think with Tennessee's pace of play, 5th in the country, and the need for Georgia to have to kind of keep pace, I don't think they're going to be able to do it on the ground the way that they have been used to. I think you're going to see Stetson Bennett throw the ball a lot more than we're accustomed to, and I think he's going to go over. I think the game goes over at 66.5. I do think.
I do too. I mean, if you think about that Florida team, they let that Florida team carve them up in that second half. So how is Tennessee not going to? Vaughn, do you have to play in this game?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I like. I definitely can appreciate the Stetson Bennett angle. You do get the 288.5 on DK. There's a 290.5 on FanDuel. I just checked. So there's a 2-yard difference. I don't think it makes much of a difference in a game like this, but that is the way I would approach this one, because I think it could be a shootout too. I did risk a unit because there's juice on this prop, but Hendon Hooker over 1.5 passing touchdowns today on FanDuel.
Okay.
When you look at these two teams when you look at last year and this year for this Georgia defense, of course, there's been some recent injuries that may make you squeamish, especially going up against Hendon Hooker in general. But the only teams that had success against them last year that scored 17 or more points was Tennessee and Alabama. Alabama had to do in the SEC championship and the national championship. Tennessee scored 17 on them in a regular game. Hendon Hooker had 1 tutty, didn't throw the second one. We've seen how great Hendon Hooker has become this season. We've seen Georgia's taken a slight step back defensively. So I like taking a shot on Hendon Hooker here to throw for 2 or more touchdowns on FanDuel. I wouldn't be throwing the over 2.5 touchdowns on DraftKings, although that's plus 150. I think that's too much against Georgia's defense. So I like this here. I'm also, Brad, I'm with you semi, but I don't even want the points, my guy.
Yes.
If Tennessee is going to beat Alabama and Georgia in the same season, this is the year for the Tennessee Vols team to do it. So I will sprinkle on the money line and play that. I don't want the points because it's either going to be a Tennessee victory by 3 to 6 points or Georgia's going to lay the smack down by 15 today. So we'll see what's happening. I don't think there's an in between, but I like the Vols and Hooker.
I'll say one more. Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
I got a quick, just an interesting update that came across. 90% of the money going into today was on Tennessee. Within a half-hour period, a bunch of sharps showed up with duffel bags and started laying it down on Georgia. So within a half hour this morning, it went from the 8 in some places all the way up to 9.5 within 30 minutes with all the late Georgia money coming in. So that's something to be aware of on the sharp side.
Do you remember this happened? The same thing though with Tennessee and Alabama. The exact same thing happened.
It did.
Exact same thing happened.
That's fair. I'm just saying.
It did. I will say one thing. I know a lot of people are talking about the noise and how loud it's going to be for Tennessee, but this Tennessee doesn't do a lot with snap cadence. The way they play football is fast. They want to get up to the line. They want to beat you on timing. So I know people are using that a lot as an angle. I think Georgia's keys to victory here is they have a top 2, top 3 defense. That's their key to victory, and we all know that. So let's move it on to our best bets. I was happy. Now I'm 6-3. Eric 7-2. Vaughn 4-5. But you were on that massive heater. Let's get it back, Vaughn. Service Academy play. Give it to me.
I mean, you already know this game starts in 15 minutes. It starts before everyone else because it is the game of the day. But as everyone knows, Service Academy unders since 2012, 27-3-1 to the under. That's over a 90% hit rate. It's just simply because these teams play each other every single season. They have time to prepare for each other, normally with a bye week prior to meeting each other, like both teams have had for this game. So they've gone to this game knowing what each other does offensively, defensively, prepping for each other once again. Historically, they've gone well. Neither team could throw. Everyone wants to play the over because they believe Air Force can go and score on Army. But if you look at who Army has played offensively this season, they have played a lot of good offenses. I mean, we're talking Wake Forest, talking Coastal Carolina. I mean, these type of caliber teams that'll put up 35, 40 on most opponents. So I like Army Air Force under. Most time, the first half will be where most of the points are scored, and then the second half dies off. That's how it's been recently. So expect to sweat. Enjoy it. Let's go.
Sweaty, sweaty, sweaty. Guys, this line's no longer available. So my best bet was going to be Mayan Williams, running back, Ohio State versus Northwestern, 60.5. So I can't give that as best bet, but I will pivot. I'm going to go with, it's still available, 100 yards and a touchdown plus 375. So if you guys were able to check out me and Vaughn's segment betting the Big Ten, I talked about TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson will get ruled out. Mayan Williams now will get about 65 to 70% of the action. This is against a Northwestern team, also in the rain, bad weather, who is 111th or worse in stopping the run. They're only 198 rush yards per game. Ohio State wants to win this game in the trenches. If you hear what Ryan Day has been talking about all week, is he likes how his team has been physical up front. He wants to continue doing that. He wants to have his offensive line, which kind of struggled to do this against Penn State, move the defensive line, create holes, create lanes, because games like this aren't always about Northwestern. It's not always about winning the game. It's about setting yourself up for things that you're going to do in the playoffs, in the Big Ten championship, in the national championship. You want to establish this kind of dominance against teams that you're going to beat. So this is going to be nasty, ugly, grind it out. And I think if Mayan Williams can average 4.5 carries per attempt, he's absolutely going to hit this number. So again, that's Mayan Williams, 100 plus yards and a touchdown, plus 375. The most plus money I've given out for a best bet, but I'm ready to go 7-3.
I like this. I mean, you hit this, it kind of counts as 2 wins in my book. So.
All right, Vaughn, let's move it over to Eric. This is a play that I actually locked in with you guys. Same game. Tell me what you like.
Absolutely. Well, I have a little policy, Brad. The policy is in games with torrential wind, with gale force winds currently sitting at 25 miles an hour right now. As discussed, I look for the 20s. Once it hits 24, it really starts to affect the passing game. We are seeing gale force winds up to 52 miles per hour with gusts, in other words, that can, as we discussed what happened in the Oregon State game, that is much, much more volatile than what we saw even last night up there in the Pacific Northwest. So that's going to be a factor in multiple games. You can see that in the Wisconsin game, all across the Midwest, we're seeing that. The Purdue game absolutely could be an issue as well. So keep that in mind if you're looking at the player props for these games. Check what the wind situation looks like. I know it's kicking up to at least 15 to 20 in those cases. So simply be wary of it. That being said, what I do like to take when the winds are a-blowing, I like to take quarterback unders. And do we ever have a quarterback under for you today? Brendan Sullivan. Quarterback, Northwestern versus Ohio State. This opened on FanDuel 2 days ago, at 125.5 passing yards. I did not have the gall to take the under at 125. It's just a bridge too far for me. That's the lowest passing line I've seen all season, and I've seen them all, folks. So when I woke up this morning, cleared the sleep from my Pacific time zone eyes, and looked to see that DraftKings had hung Brendan Sullivan at 163.5 in a hurricane. Please, everybody, for your bankroll's sake, you go out there right now and you get yourself some Brendan Sullivan under 163.5 at DraftKings or wherever you can find it for that.
My goodness.
Immediately, FanDuel went from 125 up to 155. Okay, because they immediately realized they were out of lockstep with the marketplace as soon as that happened. Yeah. So they got hammered up 30 yards. Be aware of that. With the kind of winds we're seeing right now in the morning, I just don't have a lot of faith against the exceptional Ohio State defense, the top 6 unit. And Jim Knowles has, done an absolute incredible job so far this year in revamping that entire unit. I'm 100% in on this.
Eric, I love that.
And if anyone follows me on Twitter, I put this one out. Then Eric texted me about an hour later and was like, I need you to place a bet for me. This Brandon Sullivan line is a joke. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. So everyone that follows me from our 1 unit wager, before we on the show, we all definitely doubled down a little bit. So it's 1.5 for me now. I love this too.
Vaughn.
He hasn't even hit this yet. I mean, Iowa 159, Maryland 143, Wisconsin 114. What makes you think he's going to do this against Jim Knowles in the rain? Ohio State defense from
in the rain, in the wind. What?
Yeah.
Under.
This is amazing. We're squad riding this so much. It's funny.
Absolutely. and to that point, Malik Washington. There's so many Maliks. Was listed at 51.5, I believe. He's down to 48.5, but the juice is down to -140, up to -140. But look, if the quarterback isn't getting there, how is this receiver going to get 51 yards or whatever it was at? Donnie Navarro's at 31.5. This could be just a family fade, and that's kind of essentially what I did. I already put Williams and Navarro. Yeah, absolutely. I had Williams and Navarro already yesterday in my player props column that I put out. I recommended that you fade both of them. But obviously it wasn't, Sullivan hadn't been released to where it's at now. So at the time it was 50.5. That's got down in Washington. It was 32.5 on Navarro. Both of those have gone down. If you can get them. They might be down very soon.
It's kind of funny because I kind of touched on this when we were backstage before the show. And books are hanging this special out, this boost of Malik Washington, 100 yards. Guys, save your money. Like, I was like, I can't believe they're even offering this. Like, how are you going to
wait? You said CJ Stroud? Did you say CJ Stroud?
No. Malik Washington. I was like,
Malik
this
Washington.
can't be real. Yeah, I was like, no way they're really going to try this. Like, because people are going to be like, oh, this looks great. He's going to kill it. It's going to be a shootout. No. Go on winfinder.com. Type in what's game Evansville, type in Evansville, Illinois, and see exactly what's happening. Hey, anybody who's watching, I want to invite you guys to go ahead and smash that like button. Also, drop your questions and comments because we're going to try to answer as many as possible. So we're going to take our first question. Kentucky win or lose today? Guys, I'm going to be on record saying that I love betting Missouri this season. It's been profitable except against Vanderbilt. I actually do think Missouri wins this game. And it's not because I think they're the better team. But I think the line's telling you all that you need to know. Kentucky traveling on the road, yet it's a pick 'em. I would thought they would probably be 3.5, maybe 4-point favorites. Yeah. So the line to me is kind of telling the story. What do you think, Vaughn?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely thought Kentucky would be bigger favorites here. I actually have a play in this game that I feel much more confident about rather than just playing a side. So we're going to roll with the guy that let us down last week against a perennial opponent. So Chris Rodriguez, over 95.5 rushing yards, -115 on DraftKings. He's 98.5 on FanDuel, which I still think is playable. This guy, up until the last games, had 100+ yards in 8 of his last 10 games. The Tennessee game is the one that he did not do this last week against. But when you look at last season, I'm trying to see Missouri. He put up 207 yards, 2 touchdowns on 27 carries. And if you guys remember when Eric was singing a Missouri theme song earlier, and we were taking running back props and fading Missouri on the road in general, they just cannot stop the run. That's been their downfall the past 2 seasons. They're a bad road team, and they can't stop the run. Those are the 2 worst things about Missouri football. So we're going with Chris Rodriguez over 95.5. He's had 126, 197, and 64 in conference play, and he'll be our ladder play. We're going to go 125+ yards on FanDuel for +210. We're going to sprinkle that. He's already done that 2 out of the last 3 weeks, like I said, and he had over 200 yards last year. Normally, as Eric would know, they would hang these ladder plays a lot higher than that. For a guy that's 95.5, 98.5 yards, his ladder should be at 150, higher than that, but they only let you top off at 125. He's going to have a big game.
Yes, I like that a lot.
You know what's interesting, Vaughn, about that, and just for a moment as an aside, FanDuel has been leading in terms of the market for the domestics when putting out their own stuff. They've been doing it much earlier, and we've seen DraftKings where they were starting to put out their stuff on Wednesdays earlier in the season, like the first 4 weeks. They've gotten a little more conservative, and they've been waiting for the market to get set. to release the breadth of their offerings on Friday. So we've seen FanDuel really leading the charge and being first on a lot of lines they're putting up. Where it's really been profitable is I would advise people to kind of try to stay on around Wednesdays and take a look on FanDuel. Got a great line on Cavassier Smoke on Wednesday. He was listed at 28.5 rushing yards. As you know, Vaughn, because you have, you're playing Chris Rodriguez. Since Rodriguez came back from his 4-game suspension, he has absolutely dominated the market share in that backfield in the dominator rating. Like, he is the guy, hands down, unlike in the past where they previously with Eshim Rose and, Smoke and,
Smoke's a better pass receiver.
It was a 3-man weave they were running through that has not been the case since Rodriguez got back. He's taken every single carry pretty much.
Yep.
One, maybe 2 or 3 has been doled out to Smoke, but this is no longer a 60-40 situation. This is like a 90-10, maybe an 85-15. And as just an aside, when you're looking for that, if you are a college props, wagerer, be on the lookout on Wednesdays for some soft FanDuel lines and, be ready to cap. So if that's your thing, just giving you a heads up.
Nice. I love it. Eric, tackle this question for us because I know you're the prize picks guru. Any 3 players you recommend on prize picks?
I did put out Kyrie Robinson earlier in the week. He was at 11.5 fantasy points, which he's gone over 7 of 8 games or 6 or 7 games that he's played this season. You pretty much have to. And they're playing Colorado State, which, as we know, Colorado State is in their first year of a changeover from the moribund, I'll break my vocabulary word, Steve Adazio last season, who is legitimately one of the worst in-game coaches at any level I have ever seen. So they're kind of recovering from that and now have Jay Norvell in time, but they're changing over from a run-based system to a straight-up air raid that he employed in Nevada. So with San Jose State has been humming. They're back. They have a quarterback they didn't have last season, which is why they were down. I think they can make quick work of Colorado State. And Kyrie Robinson's pretty much the only guy who gets snaps, so I love that. And in terms of, I didn't check prize picks this morning since I typically do, in the early part of the week, I'll do more prize picks. And then as the domestics get released, I focus on that because just as for any wagerer, the books want you to parlay these. They know that if you're going just solo on these player props plays, you're going to beat them. And that's why the DraftKings, if you open up a new account and you try to bet college player props exclusively and don't sprinkle in, other plays, I've heard of people getting shut off within a day. Limited. You get them in and then you're gone, unless you're a seasoned account. So the newbies are really finding that out on the domestic front. And the point I'm making is I try to there are great lines early in the week in prize picks. Once these lines get settled, go with the domestics if you can, so you can get those single plays in and not be tied to 2 different plays that you have to be in, and even 3. So when I do prize picks, I'll do 2. Sometimes I'll do 3 because you are forced to parlay these plays. But I very rarely go up to 4 or 5 because it just becomes exponentially much more difficult.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can attack those 2s and 3s pretty good and get great line value. But I tackle them earlier in the week before they're settled, then pivot to the domestics.
Yeah, I like that. Good one. Here, so the news came across, I saw on my Twitter feed that Haynes King's probably going to start. Wrong. I grabbed the wrong one. There we go. I agree. I think Florida's going to beat Texas A&M. I liked them before. And someone also asked if there were any props that are correlated. I think it was Shane who asked. Unfortunately, Shane, I looked for you, man. By the time that we got to this right now, the props were taken off the board for me. I didn't see any. It would be all unders for me for Texas A&M wide receivers, but I don't even know what the lines are set at right now. So I didn't see anything. So I wish we had a better answer for you.
I can help out a little bit on this. My gosh, when it's props time, you know who to call.
Yeah,
it's not Ghostbusters. This kind of dovetails with what I had just been mentioning about the early week lines. And this goes for prize picks. It also goes for FanDuel since they're trying to set the market. When you're doing that, you leave yourself up to be exposed. With Texas A&M, I actually got Haynes King at 200.5 passing yards on Wednesday on FanDuel because they put him up. I have also heard that Connor Wegman, I read a message board post on the excellent CFF site Discord, where the great Andrew P. Katz of Burning the Red Shirt podcast put up a very interesting insider post that was saying that Wegman, while the flu was going through Texas A&M's locker room right now.
Yeah.
It's just dropping people left and right over there. Wegman was sick earlier in the week. I guess it's supposed to be a 50-50 shot. Like, Wegman is supposedly going to suit up, and if needed, he's going to try to give it a go from what I'm reading on the message boards. That's a split QB situation. And as we know, as we get further into the season, the QB split situations end up being huge profit centers because, gosh, even if King plays, one, he's Haynes King.
Yeah.
You're very, very correct, Shane. Sugar Shane White-Witted, who is a great guy in the community, obviously a sweetheart. I'm a big fan of Shane. But with they're playing Florida, this is the Texas A&M passing attack. And attack is loosely. It's more like a passing fad, It's not attack.
Yeah.
So with the very real possibility of Wegman coming in and getting time in a split QB situation where Haynes King has been dreadful.
Terrible.
I think this is a great spot. They took down the 200.5 quickly, but these are the kind of advantages that we're talking about. Earlier on, Evan Stewart was at 66.5. I believe he was right around that.
Yeah.
I love Evan Stewart, true freshman, 5-star, who came out right out of the gate, started game one, and has been exceptional. So I love Stewart. Also, Muhsin Muhammad, as we all know, his father is legitimately an NFL great. He was listed down on FanDuel at 40.5 receiving yards, where though I'm not obviously a proponent of the passing props from a quarterback perspective, now. Dude, 40.5 from Moose Muhammad. You can check the game looks. You can just watch the games. He's awesome in terms of he's a legitimate, absolute SEC caliber wide receiver. And there's not a lot out there without Anais Smith, who's been hurt. It's pretty much him and Stewart. So the volume they're getting, he's going to get 6-7 targets. You don't have to do much to get to 40.5 yards. So we've seen this game spike, obviously, because of these factors. I have a hard time taking it 57.5 with Haynes King out there against Florida, where I expect a run-based approach, of course, by the Gators, which Billy Napier does. So,
yep. Awesome. Cool. One question that I kind of looked over, but Brock Bowers, over 58.5 receiving yards. Are you liking it? Or are you fading that, Eric?
Again, our friend Hindu Kush. Welcome, my friend. Love the name. Bowers, 58.5 receiving yards. You can't, man. I can't take any more Brock Bowers unders. I just can't do it anymore. You just can't do it. He's so talented. And that catch he made, it was last week.
Oh my God. Last week.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Boom, spinning around, catching, and then he's gone. He is the most explosive tight end. Obviously, Michael Mayer is in terms of, contested catch ratio, in terms of having the big body, because he's 6'6", 250. Bauer is only 6'3", 235. So it's just a different type of a weapon. But yeah, man, I am not going to tell you to take an under in this game. I think we're going to see points. I also, Ladd McConkey's at 49.5. He has been the safety valve for that Georgia offense. He gets looks. He's in that slot role, that big slot role, and he's just so dependable. So I do think that both of those guys, I just can't take unders on them. I refuse to take unders in this game on this Georgia passing attack, since I think they're going to finally have to juice it up.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so before we get into the People's Parlay, I want to invite you guys to play Irish Pick'em. Play college football pick'em on the NBC Sports Predictor app for your chance to win $10,000 every week. It's easy and it's free to play. From first downs to touchdowns, you can win big. Feel free to enter with plenty of cash prizes. Go down to the NBC Sports Predictor app. Listen, I write articles for Predictor. I play Predictor myself, although I can't win, but it makes you a stronger, sharper handicap. Let's go into the People's Parlay, and I will kick this one off. My leg, UCF Moneyline at Memphis. I opted for Moneyline here because the home team has actually covered in 11 straight games. a lot of people are going to discredit UCF because John Rice Plumlee, however you want to pronounce it, is probably not going to play. If you guys have followed me for long enough in the offseason, you know that I'm a big Mikey Keene guy. I think Mikey Keene is the real deal. And I do think that hear me out.
This is my favorite hot take of this entire
show.
All season, the Mikey Keene hot take.
Hear me out.
Oh, yeah, yes, sir.
I think that the decision to start Plumlee was the intangibles that Plumlee has, the things that Keene doesn't, the legs, the juice, the drive, the gamesmanship. Keene comes in and wins the game for UCF last week. He's going to win the game this week. UCF has won 14 of the last 15 meetings between the two teams. Vaughn, you have an objection.
As the biggest UCF fan of the season here on the show, I did not feel comfortable backing UCF at all today. I felt like this was a pure pass spot. A lot of the games that they lose are on the road historically. Road game for them. And yeah, I'm with Eric. Like Mikey Keene, he's not bad. He's not terrible, but Plumlee's way better. Plumlee came in and took his job within a week. Like Plumlee's better.
Absolutely. I feel bad. Like John Rice Plumlee in the offseason for college fantasy football purposes was a guy I was fading because I'm like, look, this guy's just playing wide receiver at Ole Miss. You know, we saw him try to throw forward passes in 2020, and they basically just ran the option, and they gave up trying to throw. But gosh, you got to give it to Gus Malzahn in terms of how he used them, developed them. Basically, he became like a souped-up Nick Marshall in the G5, Like, gosh, is there ever value in that? And he's clearing 300 yards. Like he's been great. I absolute mea culpa on that. Mikey Keene, see,
come on.
Does everybody know that you're a UCF guy?
I should have led off
to UCF.
I should have let off with that. I should have let off with.
There is a Homer element to this bet.
A UCF alum, UCF student athlete. Like I should have let off with that. And a lot of the UCF faithful were happy with John Rice Plumlee. And it's kind of something that we say, Mikey Keene's the true QB1. You guys will see. You guys will see how good he is today.
Yeah, I wanted you to stop me, Brad, when I said I'm the biggest UCF supporter on this show. You just let me keep going. I'm like, all right.
I was like, inside my head, my wheels were turning. I was like, oh, really? I was like, I didn't know that. I will say one last thing about my UCF bet so we can move on.
So give us more Mikey Keene, please. We haven't had enough.
Number 1 NFL 2024.
But prior to the rise of Cincinnati, and Cincinnati making the playoffs, there were two teams that UCF wanted to beat every single time they played: USF and Memphis. This is a game that is going to be hostile, loud, and UCF is going to do everything. It's not like going to travel to ECU. This is they want to win this game. So someone's on Louisville. After Louisville turned my man Hartman into a junkyard machine. Why do you like Louisville this week?
Oh, dude, that was the Sam the Hitman Hartman funeral game. My gosh, what they did to wait. I think it was like 5 turnovers in the third quarter. I don't even know. It might have been 6. I lost count going through that game. It was an absolute meltdown of the first order. But when it comes to Louisville, obviously they bounce back, and they're, week to week, they fluctuate a little bit. That's just the nature of what's going to happen when you have Malik Cunningham, who's a little inconsistent when it comes to his ball placement. I think that might be an understatement. So what I do like about this is we've seen JMU come out, and they came hot, for those first 5-6 weeks. James Madison was bringing it. But the past couple of weeks, we've seen them come back to reality. They couldn't handle Marshall last week. 50 Centeo went down, and right now he is questionable to play in this game. So we all know, 50 Centeo, we want him out in the club, just like 50 Cent, our boy. So if he can't play, first off, it's 7 points, 7.5. That ain't enough.
You hammer Louisville.
That just ain't enough. This is the first year that James Madison has even been in the FBS. Yeah. And they're down there in the Sun Belt and just got handled 2 weeks in a row. They're going to go and take a step up, head out to Louisville, as they say out there in Kentucky, and expect to be taking out, the Cardinals with potentially backup quarterback, or at least a dinged up quarterback who against Yaya Diaby, their edge rusher over there in Louisville. He is an NFL player. The guy's production is off the charts. He's going to be terrorizing that backfield. Good luck keeping him off the quarterback. I just think you can't do it. You just can't. Give me Louisville.
Vaughn,
I like that.
San Diego State. Let me hear it, man. This has been our breadwinner. Come on.
Yeah, I will say I like the Louisville look. JMU, once they lost to Georgia Southern, that's like their whole season. The air got taken out of their season because they wanted to say, we're going undefeated as our first year in D1 in the Sun Belt, and we're not eligible to be in the bowl. And now they can't say that. So you just seen their season kind of derail. So I like that look. But San Diego State, man, this is one of our Cinderellas.
Yes.
We see the line is actually coming down because they were laying 6.5. It's down to about 5.5 now because Doug Brumfield of UNLV, the quarterback, is going to be back today. And if Brad loves Mikey Keene, he's going to love Doug Brumfield. Brumfield hasn't played in about a month. So this is the best defense he's playing, best defense rated that he's playing also. And for San Diego State, this is actually a really big game because not only have they been streaking now with Jalen Maiden as the quarterback, but this is their first home game since October 7th. All right, that's almost exactly a month away. And this is actually homecoming. So they haven't had a home game in about 4 weeks, and now it's homecoming with Jalen Maiden's first game as a home quarterback after all its excitement he's been brewing up on the road. They outgained Fresno State last week, 449 to 391, but they blew that game in literally the last 3 minutes. They were up by 9 and lost that game by 2 or 3 points in the final minutes. So they cash and keep covering for us. We're going to take them to cover again today, but we're taking them on the money line in this parlay because unlike you guys, well, unlike Eric, I guess, I'm going to be safe and take a money line rather than a spread. But I like all our plays, and I think I have the best quarterback of the bunch. That's all I'm saying.
Best quarterback of the bunch.
Man, today is Hot Take Saturday. Hot Take Saturday. Let's answer some questions in the chat. I'm going to start with this one. Do you still like Ja'Cory Brooks, 51.5, Eric?
Yeah, it's only 2 more yards, And the thing I appreciate about Dylan, who, I've certainly for a couple of years I've known Dylan, his picture looks like Borat, and I love it. I love that mustache, Dylan. That being said, yes, absolutely, Ja'Cory Brooks, 51.5. I think if you see 3 of the last 5 games, he's gone over that, but not just that, he's gone over 75 yards. But the 2 games where he didn't, Bryce Young, Arkansas, we know he got knocked out of the game, and that was a catastrophe, for them. They managed to obviously pull it out, but then the following week, where obviously they had the backup quarterback in Jalen Milroe, who is clearly, he is a dual threat, if not, solo threat, incredible running quarterback.
Crazy.
But you saw his number, Brooks's numbers crater, understandably, because you went from the Heisman Trophy winner and likely top 5 overall NFL draft selection to a first, game starting quarterback with a dual threat. So yes, I am certainly backing Ja'Cory Brooks. Anybody who's listened to me in the preseason knows that I target him a lot in my CFF drafts. I feel like he's the best wide receiver in Alabama in the preseason, and I feel like he's going to continue to show that out tonight.
Awesome. Love it. I like Ja'Cory Brooks a lot. He has big catch radius too, which is really important for me for a guy like Bryce Young, who does a lot of scrambling. Scrambling is not the right word. Who extends plays with his legs.
Plays. Yep. Outside of structure. Yep.
Yes.
Fair.
Extends plays with his legs. So you got to want to go to reliable guys like Ja'Cory Brooks. Next question here. Let's go this. Is Robinson still good at 13.5?
Yeah. Okay. So that spiked from 11.5 to 13.5 after I put that out. Sorry, guys. That being said, I'm still on it. I still feel okay about it for the sheer fact that, again, Colorado State, Colorado State. So 13.5, I think still reasonable. I think he gets in the end zone. Once he gets in the end zone, he'll be fine because he catches a couple passes a game, which is 2 free points. And then he'll be at least in the 50-yard range. So yeah, give me that. I still feel okay about that.
Okay, awesome, cool. Let's go into Notre Dame. Okay, so top 4 comes out. Were you guys at all surprised that Clemson was in the top 4 over Michigan?
Yes.
Eric?
I wasn't surprised.
Absolutely. They just pulled their starting quarterback the game beforehand. They just did it.
Brand name.
What?
I was surprised. I was very surprised.
No way.
I don't think they're better than them. No, I mean, was I surprised? No. Do I think they should be? Clemson should be ranked ahead of Michigan? No. So no to both of those things. But I'm with you. I mean, they pulled their quarterback. We all say Cade's the guy. If Cade would have started week 3 or 4, I'd be up there with a Heisman ticket talking him up every single week. But we got to wait till next year.
I actually, in this game, so Notre Dame, Clemson is a 3.5-point favorite. I lean Notre Dame here. It's going to be a game that I don't want to bet on personally. Eric, I know you have a play in this. We don't have to cover too much on this game, but I do want to get your play on this.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Audric Estime, running back Notre Dame versus Clemson. The over-under is 62.5 yards. Myself and a couple of my syndicate friends, degenerates from the Boston area, we're both on this. And the reason why is, they're going up against Clemson's defensive front. If you don't know how good that defensive line is, Miles Murphy, Brian Brzee, I mean, these guys are a wrecking crew. I actually personally met Miles Murphy and Brian Brzee at the Combine in Indianapolis. They happened to be walking down the street as I was going to get my DoorDash, and I literally walked out, got my DoorDash, looked over, oh, there's Miles Murphy and Brian Brzee. So I started kind of teasing Brzee a little bit. I'm like, Brzee, this is my food. You can't have that, big boy. This is mine, and those guys are great kids. They're awesome. But that being said, these guys are, Brzee's number 1 player in his class, from 3 years ago. He will be a first-round pick, as will Miles Murphy. These guys, it's just too much. Trenton Simpson, linebacker. That D is, in my estimation, I think they're the best in the country. And I think that Notre Dame, the reason why this line is even at 62.5 is because they went and they pushed around Syracuse, who is light. If you look at what their defensive line looks like, nobody's 300 pounds for Syracuse. They're all light, and they just got mauled. You're not going to be able to do that against Clemson today. And they split carries with Logan Diggs. Before last week, when Estime ran for 125, he was under 30 yards each of the previous 2 weeks because he had fumbling issues. He fumbled each of those past 2 games, and he got a little dinged up. I just think with the shared workload, Chris Tyree will get backfield reps as well. And game script-wise, I do like Clemson in this. I am backing them in terms of, laying the 3.5. I think they win even at, Notre Dame. But I think game script-wise, it's just not going to happen for Estime and his 2 other cooks in the kitchen against a stout defense. I'm going to go with the under 62.5.
Awesome. I like that. Let's go to Moneyline Sprinkles. Vaughn's already on Tennessee. I'm on Tennessee. Eric is on Florida. And so the one that we didn't cover, Kansas State. I think Kansas State beats Texas today. So we're still waiting for the news. But
plus 250. Nice.
These prices are pretty good today. Plus 250 for Kansas, plus 164 for Florida. Kansas State is plus off the top of my head, plus 130. Texas sucks on the road, man. They haven't figured out their road issues. And I'm okay with fading that with a good Kansas State team. Let's get into some of our remaining bets here. I'm going to move us along here, guys, but still we will answer your questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. If you guys want to head and smash that like button, we appreciate that as well. Will Rogers versus Auburn. Eric, quarterback of Mississippi State. What do you like?
Yeah, well, Auburn, part of their strength is supposed to be their defense coming in this season. However, the past 3 games, they've given up at least 41 points in each of them. This is a team that just fired their head coach. They're rudderless, just trying to search for identity and get through the season, and hopefully it ends so they can move on with their lives and try to bring in somebody who can be significantly more successful than Brian Harsin was. So when you have a spot like that with a team that has been clearly trending down, it's looked dreadful for the past 3 weeks, and you have Mississippi State coming in with, we know what they want to do. There's no real secret to their identity. They're going to throw the ball.
Yes.
Mike Leach is Mike Leach. This isn't any secret to anybody, but this line initially got hung at 282.5. Again, over at FanDuel. And thank you for that, because I hopped on it right away, then went up to 288.5 once. DK came out. They hung it at 299. So even at that level, I still think it's a 294 on FanDuel, at least the last time I checked before the show started. So you can get a 5 yards of line value there if you can bet FanDuel. I would recommend going and doing just that. This is a team that is beaten, that is broken, that has players looking at the transfer portal, wondering what their position is going to be on this team going forward with a new staff, and who doesn't have any connection to them or the recruiting process. And I just think there's just too much going on there. Give me Mississippi State Will Rogers overpassing 294.5.
Awesome. Listen, first I'm going to say this. You were the one who said this. Not firing your coach before the season starts actually sets you back instead of doing it mid-season. And I agree with that. They should have fired Harsin early. Vaughn, give me 2 of your favorite plays.
Yeah, we might have something brewing here right now. So you guys are going to go get this play right now if you guys are going to tell this one because the odds are shooting everywhere. So I got this at 290.5. CJ Stroud under. We're all riding Sullivan's under. We're taking Stroud's under too. No reason for him to throw for 300 yards today against Northwestern as a 38-point favorite in the rain with all the win factors. Right now, it is 272 on FanDuel, but it's 291.5 on DraftKings. That is a huge, substantial difference. So if you have DraftKings, go get DK, go get the 20 yards of value right now. If you haven't played Sullivan, he's still available on both places. If you're on FanDuel, you get same game parlay them. We wouldn't talk you off that, right, boys?
Yeah,
No.
So yeah, both Sullivan and Stroud are minus 125 odds under on DraftKings. Go get those out. And if you're looking for another noon play, an under, Spencer Petras, good old Spence. I mean,
This
do I have
line
to
is
cap this
so
one for you guys?
funny.
It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, this also has wind and a chance of rain, like 15, 20 miles per hour gusts, 45 to 50% chance of rain. You just look at his numbers. I mean, the dude has a 26.8 QBR. All right. He averages 151 yards per game. We're taking the under anytime it's over 150. So, yeah, give me Peaches under against Purdue once again.
Awesome. Look, I'm going to go into one of mine, and I'm going to go with Penn State. I've seen this in the chat a couple times. Penn State minus 13.5. I don't care who plays quarterback, guys. This Penn State defense showed us why Penn State is coming back. If you take away the 2 games where they played the top 2 teams in the Big Ten, probably 2 of the best teams in the country, this defense is allowing just 15.5 points per game. Penn State will be able to stifle this Indiana team. What we know about Indiana, they want to play fast. Playing fast is one thing, but you have to play efficiently as well. They don't play fast and efficiently to be effective. I think Penn State wins this game. I had my final prediction score was 30-13. Big win for Penn State, bounce back. They can't win the Big Ten title, but they still can hang their heads high and try to finish out the season undefeated.
Nice. Well, with Vaughn's play of Spencer Peters, I've come up with a nickname for Spencer Peters. It's Spencer's Gifts. Every time he's listed, Spencer's Gifts. And you get a little gift card where you can go and use it anywhere you want. Every time it's listed, it's a gift. So anyways, love it. Love it. It opened up at 150.5 on FanDuel on Friday, that Spencer Petras line. As soon as it came out at 169.5, I was almost passing out with excitement. So great job on that, Vaughn. I'm going to go with UNC QB Drake May. Anybody who's been paying attention to the Devy Dynasty world and the 2024 class and how they projected the NFL knows that Drake May is arguably the biggest quarterback riser in the entire country relative to his worth pre-season. He's been absolutely scorching out there. He's an NFL caliber quarterback. He will likely be a first-round pick in my estimation. And they're playing UVA. So the thing about UVA is, do they have a by the numbers, performance-wise, good past events? You can make that case. I think that's fair. However, you got to look at what they're playing. Like we talked about last week, they had a Jeff Garcia-led Jeff Garcia. I'm sorry.
The legend.
Yeah, it's not Tyler Van Dyke, the other one. Fine, whatever. I forget his freaking name right now. Anyways, they have the backup quarterback in right now. I don't know why I'm blanking out. But with the backup quarterback in, against Miami, it was a 14-12 game in quadruple overtime last week between Miami and UVA. Okay, just because that happened with a backup quarterback in a team that is changing over, that runs slow, as we all know with Mario Cristobal, very conservative offensively, that doesn't mean that's going to happen today. I feel like we're getting too much of a reactionary line based on that gross game we saw last week. And think about who they've played, okay? Here's who UVA's played the past few games. Miami, all right, not a vaunted passing attack. Georgia Tech, Louisville, again, we talked about Malik Cunningham's ability to throw the ball. and Duke, and then Syracuse,
Yeah.
and then Illinois. Those are their Power 5 opponents. Where is the passing attack there that is even going to stretch that team? We're going to see Drake May light this team on fire. 307.5 at DraftKings. He's going to absolutely dominate it. Go out there, get it. I can't believe it's this low. He's going to throw for 350. Adios.
Love it, love it, love it. Vaughn is playing one of my favorite running backs to bet on versus Michigan State. Vaughn, tell me what you like.
Yeah, I just looked at this one. This one is 148.5 on DraftKings, 135.5 on FanDuel. So obviously we want to be shopping at FanDuel for this one if you guys have this available. But quickly, the last 5 teams in the Big Ten that Michigan State has faced defensively have ran all over them. Mohamed Ibrahim, 22 carries, 103 yards and a touchdown. Antoine Littleton of Maryland, 19 carries, 120 yards and a touchdown. Travion Henderson, 19 carries, 118 and a touchdown. Braylon Allen, 29 carries, 123, 2 touchdowns. Then your guy, Brad, Blake Corum, 33 carries, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is a Chase Brown running back that leads the country in rushing, not just the Big Ten. This is an Illinois team that is streaking and trying to take the Big Ten by the throat. Yeah, Chase Brown is going to run right down the throats of the Spartans today. He's going for 150-plus yards. He's had 146-plus in his last 3 games. No reason he won't do it to one of the worst defenses in the country.
Love it. I'm going to go with mine. I'm on LSU plus 12.5. Line's already been steamed up to 13.5 in a lot of books. Listen, Alabama 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 road games. The true stat is actually 1-6. If you want to go with opening lines, 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 road games. Alabama today is going to roll out a ton of young players in their secondary. Eli Ricks is probably going to get his first start. They're going to run out some other young players. Jaden Daniels has been playing good football. They're at home. Night game. This is a tough environment for an Alabama team who I think will win this game, but I have them pegged as a 7-point favorite, which I would have set the line at. So this is just a numbers play for me, really. If I set a number, I have to take it. Even if I'm an Alabama guy, I have to absolutely take it. So I'll be short and sweet on that. Let's get into our next play. Vaughn, man, I know we talked about this one backstage. Fading FIU, betting on your team. Tell me about it.
Yeah, like I was I was joking with Brad because I said I'm sick of all these like stupid losses. So we're going back to what some would call Cinderellas and what others would call their baby mamas. North Texas is a baby mama. North Texas continually and gives everybody problems. At 15-6 ATS to start 2021. I love this team. This is literally like last year carried me all the way through the season until the end of the year. And this year they have been wrecking teams. 5-0 ATS in the last 5. But this is a really big game for them because if you guys remember that streak last year where they had to rip off 5 wins into the year and beat an undefeated UTSA team to get bowl eligibility. Well, fast forward to this year, November 5th, today they win, they get bowl eligibility. That's how much they've come, how far they've come this season. And they're playing a homecoming home game against an FIU team that is terrible on the road. They just beat Charlotte and New Mexico State on the road. And the other 2 road games, a 73-0 loss to Western Kentucky, a 41-12 loss at Texas State. Give me the mean green. That's our babies. We're gonna keep rolling, baby. The mean green.
Back to our baby mamas. Oh, Boise State is a 7-point favorite versus BYU. Why do you like Boise State?
Yeah, another one. This team too, covering. It's out to 8, so I did buy the 7 at -125 odds. But BYU is on an 0-7 ATS streak, and they lost every game they played last month. 0-4 on the money line. I don't know what happened because if you guys remember the BYU team of week 1 and week 2, that team is long gone. That team is light years away. It's not the same unit at all. And Boise State gets George Alani back, which has been an awesome running back for them. They didn't have him last year when they beat BYU 26-17. Boise State's better right now with Taylor Green. BYU's far worse than they were last year. Just lay with Boise State and keep fading BYU if you haven't yet.
Quick one. Public service announcement. All 3 wide receivers are out for UVA. I am backing Brennan Armstrong's under 251.5 passing yards. I feel like UNC's defense, while they got lit up a little bit earlier, is talented, but has been young. And I think they can be a little bit better, especially with all 3 wide receivers getting out. It must have been a case of the flu hitting that locker room. Be aware.
It's still up on DraftKings right now. It's at minus 130 to the
Put 50 in for me on the air, Vaughn. Put 50 on the air right now.
Boom, boom, boom. Eric, give us
That's why you have two phones, people, looking up stats with news, and you bet on the other. That's what I'm talking
I
about.
love it. Give us another play, Eric. I love it.
Sure. Again, we're just making sure that we're pressing our advantage. Iowa at Purdue, as we've discussed across the Midwest, plenty of wins. TJ Sheffield's at 32.5. I like the under there. Nico Ragaini, I believe that's the correct pronunciation. That's what they said on the air last game. 33.5. I like that as well. Going to be tough to pass in that conditions.
Awesome. Vaughn, do you have any more plays for us?
Let me see. We have, we mentioned it briefly, but San Diego State, it's down to 5. I'm landing with the boys. I'm not scared of them. Other than that, I'll be telling all your guys' plays, it looks like. I'm looking to add a play tonight. Probably, I might go Notre Dame Moneyline against the ACC Street. It's upset season potentially, but that's my only lean of the night.
Awesome. Eric, do you have any other plays that you want to put out before we wrap things up today?
I think I'm just about tapped out at this point.
Okay.
Bryce Young over 277.5 passing yards to dovetail with Ja'Cory Brooks. I do think that with Saban coming back, obviously he coached at LSU, obviously he won a national title, and obviously he wants to give a rude welcome to Brian Kelly to the LSU-Alabama rivalry. So I think they put the pedal to the metal.
Absolutely. Hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I want to say this show has been great. Today we have one less viewer. My buddy Jay, who always tuned in, passed away over the week. And so I just want to say rest in peace. Thank you guys so much for everything. Take care.